We have a good intention, a good understanding of where we are and what we're looking for, but I think, you know, you're allowed this with a new regime, and we were going to take advantage of it in terms of just getting a look real quick, and, you know, whether that will change our mind on anything, but you would hate not to give guys an opportunity to go show what they're doing before you went out and did that. So we'll use it for what it's worth. I don't know how much value. I think more than anything, our coaches are just really excited to get guys out on the field. So we'll use it as such. We got a couple players in here on a tryout basis, and so we're happy for that to see if we can add some things. And but we'll evaluate, but continue to work on the draft process as well.
John, has any of the trade talks intensified, John, to the point where something might happen sooner, or it might be more of a draft day?
You know, I can tell you with number 2, there have been calls, there's been interest, but I think nothing specific. It's, you know, it's coveted. You know, when you have a pick that high, I think that's natural. So, again, my first time doing this, but we have received calls, and you know, I can tell you that we feel really good about where we're at with the number 2 pick in terms of us narrowing down options and feeling really good about where we're at. But I've been very transparent from the beginning that that we'll listen. I think that will always be the case, and it certainly is. We're going to listen right up till draft day, but otherwise we're going to pick a player at 2 that we feel is a cornerstone for this franchise for years to come, and we'll be very passionate about that pick and what that player can do for us moving forward.
You guys narrow down to the 2-3 guys that you're selling?
Yeah, I would say that's, you know, fair, and you know, I think the what I'm real proud of the process is that it probably started much bigger than that, and I think we tried to create an environment that's collaborative, where people can be confident in sharing their opinions, and we had strong opinions, and they didn't always agree, but we've gotten to a point where there's consensus. Ultimately, it will be Kyle and I, you know, together making those decisions, and you know, that's kind of where we are this week.
John, would you consider taking quarterback at 2?
Yeah, you know, I think you know, we've stated from the beginning that a franchise quarterback is something we believe essential to winning this league. You know, we hope that Hoyer and Barkley come in, and they were both brought in for a reason. But we feel like we'll always continue to try to improve ourselves at that position, and so you know, I think the answer is yes.
How hard is it for you? You talk about trading down, and there's some teams that are interested. How fearful are you to trade too far down the pecking order without having your targeted 2 or 3 players that you're looking into?
Well, you know, I haven't. You know, that's not our. I think a lot of things can be construed a number of different ways. You know, what we've said, and the truth of the matter is, we're willing to listen. And but like I just told you, we're very comfortable that we can get to the point where there's a direction we can go where we'll be ecstatic, we'll be passionate about that player.
Is Richard Robinson a penciled-in starter heading into the draft?
You know, we believe in competition, and you know, we believe that all these guys got to come show us tomorrow, excuse me, will be that first opportunity for him. You know, they obviously, some guys like that have some film out there, but this is a new regime, and all these guys, one of the things that Kyle has been very clear in pointing out to them is that everyone's competing, and I think that's no different for him.
John, would you, with this draft during this free agency period, would you consider not drafting a position knowing that a player could hit free agency next year that you might try to, you know, go after then, or is that too much of a risk?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know, Steve, I think in a general sense, you take everything. You know, I think one thing I've learned on the process, there's so much that goes into every decision that you make, and there's so many different factors that you're weighing, and so you take everything into account, things like that, and then ultimately you make the best decision that you can possibly make given all the circumstances. I think you know, one of the things we set out to do, and I think the volume spoke to this that we had in free agency, is that we spoke to, or we set out with a goal of filling some places where we felt like we had holes, so that we didn't have to, and we could really, I think people get in trouble, as I've seen over years, and you study, is when they reach because they have needs. And when you're 2-14, you're going to have a lot of needs. And we addressed some of those in free agency, but there's still a lot of holes on this roster. And, you know, we're hoping to come out of this draft with a nucleus of players that are going to represent the type of players we feel can get us back to being a team that's competing for championships on a consistent basis.
John, this organization has publicly stated before that character is very, very important.
Yeah.
How much is that guiding your winnowing of the selections? Are recent news developments with some of the top prospects affecting your choices?
Yeah, you know, that will always be a guiding principle. I think one of the things we really have done a good job is kind of our forcing ourselves, and we've gone through a lot of exercises to really put down on paper, to articulate what it is that we're striving for, what it is we're looking for, what that 49er way, as we hope to reestablish it, you know, how you do that. And I think the one thing to know is, you know, and I've learned from playing and from this process, is a lot of people have issues, just like a lot of people in life have issues. And so if you're looking for a bunch of choir boys, that ain't happening. You know, it'd be hard to fill a team, but we believe in football character. Do they love football? Are they dependable? Are they accountable? Those type things. And so I think each circumstance, each player deserves and will get it being looked at in a unique and thorough way, and that's what we'll do there.
John, you've never been immersed in this process as deeply as you are this year. What's been the steepest part of the learning curve for you?
You know, probably that you're looking for perfect. You know, you're looking for assurance. You're looking for someone who fits every one of those criteria. It doesn't happen. It's not reality. And you know, I'm sure there were a lot of questions about me when I came into the league. But so you try to grow comfortable. And so I think that that everyone thinks it's easy. Well, you know, you can go find those. They're out there, and they are out there. You just have to work exhaustively. And I think that's been the biggest challenge. That's also what makes it fun. You work really hard to try to take all the risk and reward into account. And that's our job. And if we do it well, we'll be successful. If not, we'll struggle to be. And I like at least the process. That's what we focused on. I think we feel very positively about the process we've gone through to arrive at that.
In that same vein, how valuable Adam Peters and Mark May have been?
They've been awesome. You know, those were great hires. I felt, you know, when we were able to secure them, and I can tell you, you know, as we sit here along with Kyle throughout these meetings, they have both been invaluable to me, and they will continue to be. And that won't stop at this draft. I brought them in here for a reason. We brought them in here for a reason, and each in their own way have just been, you know, I wouldn't have wanted to go through this without them. So very thankful to them, and they'll play a big role in this thing as well.
Did Adam bring scouting reports from Denver, or do you guys, how did the scouting system work? Did you merge some of Alkie's stuff? Just curious.
Yeah, you know, so when we first brought scouts in right after the Super Bowl, we were kind of working off the old grading system. But you know, what helped is the grading system that they use in Denver, which, you know, kind of derived from one that was developed in New England, was also one that Kyle was familiar with in Atlanta because Thomas Dimitroff had been at New England. So it was a natural fit to move to that. So in these last 3 weeks of draft meetings, we moved over to that grading scale. And you know, that's the answer there. And you know, that always helps that there's, but I think also having some different backgrounds has been, I feel, you know, I've always been someone who thinks you should listen to multiple opinions, and we've been very collaborative, and you know, I believe in strong opinions. You know, someone once told me strong opinions weakly held, you know, so that are you open to different thoughts? And someone makes you think, but ultimately someone's got to make decisions. And so that's,
People were standing on the table and.
yeah, people, I don't know about standing on the table, but so to speak, yeah, people had strong opinions and stood up for guys, and I think it was really good. And you know, and that's part of the job. Behind those screens is our board. Up on this, you know, digitally, they've got a beautiful room in here, the John McVay draft room, and so our board is finished. There's still, if you look behind there, there's still watch more on, you know, on certain segments of that board, and so we'll continue to do that as the week goes on. But most of the work is done.
Are you guys gonna have this room open for cameras on the outside? Not for our cameras, but like an NFL Network type.
Yeah, I think there'll be.
Good question.
Yeah.
No.
Steve, you already know the answer. Come on, buddy.
Yeah, those guys know some people there, huh?
Yeah.
So.
But that's something that hasn't been the last about 5 years.
Yeah.
So is that why would?
No,
Well-
we've had the camera. NFL Network has had a camera, and they go on when we go on the clock, and then they come up. Whether they use it or not is up to them.
What'd he say?
Given as your first, I know you've been in some drafting before, John, but the whole comprehensive scouting process, I'd be curious to hear how you analyze the different levels of play, styles of play in each conference around the country. You know, ACC, SEC has been popular in the past, you're a Pac-12 guy.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Big Ten, stylistically, what do you see?
I know there's a lot of good players in the Southeastern Conference. I figured that one out. No, I mean, the obvious, there's good players everywhere though, and that's the fun part of this process. You know, a real fun part of it is when you're watching a tight end from Ashland, you know, who's a really good player, and those things are fun. And the problem is those aren't secrets anymore. I think in today's world, you know, you think you got a diamond in the rough, and then you find out other people know about them as well. So I think that's tougher and tougher, but that's been fascinating to me stylistically. I do think one of the themes, and I've said this before, I think where Kyle's been excellent and his staff, you know, for instance, spread footballs throughout this country right now in the football world at the lower levels, high school and college. So oftentimes you truly are making projections because you aren't seeing receivers run routes that you're going to see them run at the next level. And so what they've done is come in and said, these are the athletic traits. Can they get themselves in this position? Do you see this on tape? And that's a really valuable way of being able to project more accurately, you know, because you just simply aren't going to see it. So you got to find other ways, and that's been very effective for us.
Is there like a theme to the official 30 that you brought in here? Were you mostly looking at younger guys
Yeah.
because you had questions about them and wanted to learn more, whereas a senior, you've got more tape to go on?
Yeah, I think a lot of people bring in on the 30 people that they had questions about, you know, maybe character or a specific issue. That's not what we did. Ours was kind of a compilation of things. Sometimes we just wanted to feel the guy's presence, you know, one more time. We saw him at the combine, but 15 minutes, does that give you enough time to really get the feel of a person? When you bring them in for a visit, you get your coaches have an opportunity to sit down, watch film. We get an opportunity to, you know, lots of times in the draft meeting, we'd be here, Kyle and I would leave, go in there for 10 minutes and sit down with the player. And I think those interactions, just the more you can see and feel these players, I think the more valuable it is. And ultimately, you're still guessing a little bit, but you get a better feel on people.
Now, when you go through that process, when you're doing television, doing the production meetings, you sit one-on-one with the guy and things like that. Did that help you?
Yeah.
In terms of like diagnosing, you know, even how a guy operates?
Yeah. I think one thing I learned, Steve, when you're working with highly driven, successful people, you know, quarterbacks, head coaches, I never wanted in the broadcast world and to waste their time. And so you better come in prepared, and you better know the type of questions that people find stimulating and the type of questions that I've always believed you ask a dumb question, you're going to get a dumb answer, and you're going to get a dumb response. And so I never try to do that. So I think from that sense, it really helped me. It helped me just, you know, I believe in preparation to be to be great at everything, at anything, you better put your work in. And I worked really hard at that. And so I watched a ton of film on every side of the football as well. And even though it's through a different lens, I think it was extremely helpful. It also, gave me kind of a global outlook on the league. The one thing I would tell you, I hadn't watched as much college football because I was so focused on my NFL job. So, other than watching a team up north here that I have a great affinity for, I've watched them a lot when possible. But so this was just more about diving into the film. And at some point, you watch, but we've got just under 200 players on our draft that we see as draftable players on our board. We've been exhausted. I've been exhausted. My family's not here. They're down in San Diego finishing school. So I've been spending a lot of time in here, and it was needed this year because I had a lot of catch up to do. And I can tell you that just last night I finally got to the point. I always knew as a player, like, okay, I'm ready. That moment was yesterday for me, where I said, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to go on this thing, and that's a good feeling.
Regarding King and all choir boys, obviously you have to take some risk with characters.
Right.
At some point, would you be more, perhaps this is a dumb question, but would you be more apt, to maybe take those risks later down the road and try to establish a locker room culture, with guys are going to be your type of guys, at least in the first year?
Yeah, I think that's not a dumb question, Eric. I think that's part of growing this nucleus of players that kind of fit and embody what we're all about. Because I think the more players you have, and I think free agency for us was trying to develop that some on the limited knowledge that we had. Get rid of some people that we didn't feel sometimes were more talented, but we didn't feel embodied what we want to be all about, and bring in people that do represent that. And I think what I've found is when you have a locker room that is strong, maybe you can bring some people in that have 7 of the 10 qualities, but 3 of them aren't there. And it's when you surround them with great examples of what you're looking for, then that's a lot more doable. Are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. So I think that's fair, that in the future we'd feel much better about doing that. That's what we're striving for. But I think even then, you always want to stay true to what you're about. And when you do that, I think the organizations in this league that have done that are successful.
You mentioned from Jim, what he said. Initially, you knew a guy like Derek Brooks and Warren Dunn, you're like, okay, that's.
Yeah.
But so sorry to single a guy out, but like Warren Sapp, there were issues. He fell down the draft board.
Yeah.
You may not look at him in the same light as Derek Brooks. But does he have what you would term football character, or do he have football character?
I can tell you this about Warren Sapp is that that guy loved football, and he came, and I never wanted to play without him. My job was a lot harder when I played without him, and he was dependable. Those are the type of things. He was. While he's had some issues, he was. One of the things Kyle talks about a lot is protect the team, and I felt that. Most of the time Warren protected the team, and no one's perfect, but yeah, so I think, that's an example, and he's a great friend, and so I think very highly of him. Never been short for opinions, as we just learned with Myles Garrett.
When you talk about a character locker room, being able to absorb certain things, you had some high character guys like Pierre Garcon with some high power. You think you brought in a young quarterback, especially a guy who had to play, that you have a locker room character to help support a guy and help him go over the highs and lows?
I do. Pierre's a great example. Pierre's not a big rah-rah guy. He's not a guy who's going to give speeches before the game. But you turn on the film, and his type of play is contagious. He fights for extra yards. He plays with great physicality. He's productive. Those were the type of guys we were looking for. And so that not only could you bring in at the quarterback position, can you bring in players anywhere? I've always found that those type of players, that's contagious to your entire team, to your culture. And so that's what we've been striving to do, and we'll continue to do so.
When talking about pass rushers, specifically looking at measurables, and you had those charts up, certain teams favor certain measurables. So some teams certain a 10-yard split, others a 3-cone drill. When they look at players out of this upcoming draft, there's players like, I always talk about Derek Barnett, but he ran a 6.96 3-cone drill, which is better than Khalil Mack, who ran 7.8. How much emphasis do you take into account the explosiveness off the line of scrimmage with the 3-cone drill as opposed to the 10-yard split?
Yeah, you're on it. You take all that into account, you really do, and you know, I think you look at Derek Barnett. One skill he has, he's got a tremendous get-off. I mean, that's important. It really is. And you take a look. People, I think, give analytics and research and development a bad name. But really what it helps you do is kind of define, okay, people who have been successful at this position, here's the characteristics they've shared. And so that's helpful to me. I think you're a fool if you don't look at some of that. So that's been part of the process as well. You know, people say I've heard someone say we're an analytics-driven team. That's not true, but, you know, we got a group back here that I think are, you know, really intelligent people, and I think we'd be foolish not to include them. It hasn't been a huge part, but they have played a role, and it's just like that. Are we missing something? Is there anybody that we're missing? Is there something that we've overlooked? So it's another way to cross-check yourself. Yeah.
You guys made a decision on Jimmy Ward and his fifth year?
No, we haven't yet. Yeah. So, and that doesn't speak to any confidence or lack thereof that we have. Just to be perfectly honest, there's, you know, we obviously have to conduct business, but you know, we've been pretty focused in here in free agency, and we'll get to a lot of that stuff. I've been saying that on a lot of things. I'll get to that after this draft.
John, is it a necessity to add a young quarterback to this roster at some point in the draft?
No, I would not say that. I mean, we've got two. Kyle typically likes going to camp with two. That's in an ideal world if you have the right guys. But there's no absolutes there either.
A couple more guys?
Had a couple weeks with Jimmy at the classroom. Do you have any direction at all? What you're going to do with him?
With Jimmy? You know, I think we're going to work him at both spots, but we would like to give him an opportunity to see if, you know, we feel like there's a match with his skills and what he can do to the free safety position that you know, that we're going to have in this system. Like anyone else, he'll compete, and but we want to give him that opportunity. I don't think just because, you know, some of the things that have transpired and there's a need at corner, we're going to deviate from that plan. We want to give him that opportunity, and I think that's the plan right now, to work him a little at both. But, you know, in this camp, starting tomorrow, he'll have that opportunity. You know, it's a good question. It's one that we forced ourselves to talk about and discuss. And, you know, I'm not trying to cop out, but it's going to be collective. And, you know, Kyle and I made a commitment early on that we're going to come into this thing, and we figured out our own way to have our tiebreaker. But, and, you know, but it's not something that we've just kind of put aside and come Thursday night, like, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I mean, we've got a plan. I can tell you that.
John, this being your first time in charge, is there any danger of being too safe in your picks because you don't have an established reputation with other guys?
Yeah, you know, that's one thing that, frankly, I grew real comfortable as I started to get involved in. The process happened quick, but when I started to admire Kyle, I always felt like a great quality. You can't play scared. I think in life, and I think in this league in particular, you got to play smart, but you can't play scared. And so I hope that's a quality that you'll see from us, that we're never going to do things because they're safe. We'll try to do things because they're smart, they're well thought out. But I think if you're doing things because you're scared, you're already behind the 8 ball. So I think when you think of Kyle Shanahan, at least me, I think of someone who's smart, intelligent, but aggressive. And that's how we want to act in this draft as well.
You mentioned the school a couple miles just earlier, prospect from there, bottom around the top 5. Can you admit it or not, you'd be overtly biased to a Stanford?
You know, sometimes you have to recuse yourself and make sure other people are seeing it like you are. And so I think they've got a number of good players. And, you know, we all have our allegiances. You know, Kyle's a Texas guy. Adam's a UCLA Bruin. And, you know, Martin's a Florida State guy, Jed's a Notre Dame guy. So we got a lot of people that have their allegiances, but we also know that whenever you make decisions, you got to have the organizations. You know, a real smart man in this league, you know, told me at the beginning of this, if every decision you make, you say, is this what's best for our organization, you'll do a great job. And so I think that's something that you keep in mind with situations like that and others.
How do you stay with what the Browns? There's been reports back and forth the last 2 days.
With the
Browns.
Okay.
What they want to do at one. And
Yeah.
I mean, how confident are you in knowing what they might do?
Well, I think you prepare for every scenario, and Cam, the reality is this entire draft, we're going to be right behind them in most situations, and other teams are going to be right behind us. So, you know, that's what's going to be fun. I remember when I spent time with the Broncos, one of the most fun things, and it's also a really valuable exercise. We'll start tomorrow and later today is actually going through mocks, and you know, different people draw different names, and you go through those things. So those exercises are invaluable. You take a lot of, you know, mocks that are averages of where guys are supposed to go. You do all that. You start putting yourself in scenarios, and we'll be doing that the rest of this week.
You used the 3 mocks, you said.
Yeah.
You haven't done any yet on your own for fun?
Oh yeah, I've been doing a lot. You know, I've been putting myself in a lot of scenarios.
Who do you have going at number 2? Are some mocks more valuable than others? I mean, which mocks are the ones that you're really going to focus on?
Well, I think all of them, you know, because I think what you want is, you know, one thing, I think sometimes we scoff at these people and assumptions that are being made, but I know there's a lot of people that talk to a lot of people in this league, and there's people in my role who go to people for information. And so those aren't completely misguided. So you get a general sense by looking at all of them, and the ones, you know, obviously the ones that have shown to be reputable, and you kind of take averages there. But there's, you know, I'll tell you, you know, one thing, not to give guys plugs, but like Mike Mayock, that sucker is, every pro day I was at, he was at. You know, he's out there doing the work, and so you tend to, probably someone who's showing up and doing the work, you tend to listen to guys like that a little more.
John, just follow up, you address your on the clock?
Yeah, we'll put ourselves in that situation as we do scenarios. We'll also do it with, you know, trade scenarios that might arise. So, you know, I think that's one thing you learn as a player, and coaches are very accustomed to. You try to walk through everything, and this won't be any different. We haven't done it yet.
Last one, guys, yeah.
The trade scenario you mentioned, we didn't talk much about that today, and that gets into a whole different, because you talk about player eval here, then you get into playing poker.
Right.
Right, so how much is
Right.
that part of your training?
Yeah. Well, I think there's some reality to that, but, you know, I think, you know, one of my mentors in this game is Tony Dungy, and I think he always felt like those things were a little overrated. And if you just be transparent, sometimes that's the best poker you can play. People, is this guy for real? You know, that's what I'll try to do. Again, I'll always keep the best interests of this team, but there's not going to be a whole lot of shenanigans coming from us. You know, and that's how we have operated in our first couple months, and that's how we plan to operate moving forward.